I am 32. It's a strange age, no longer a girl, not yet that unflappable woman who seems immune to other people's opinions and the noise in her own head. I'm the kind of person who keeps life together with tiny rituals, sorting socks by colour, pointing cup handles to the right, doing laundry on Sundays so Monday can pretend to be a clean start. Order has always felt like a whisper that calms my heart. And then one afternoon I slid my hand into my husband's jacket pocket and pulled out not order, but a sticky, stretching suspicion that got on everything. Paper rustled like someone else's skin. A ticket. Old school, printed on thin stock, ink pale at the edges, the date and time spelled out, the name of the band we both loved, the very concert he couldn't make because of work. I sat down on the edge of the bed and tried to breathe. I usually roll my eyes at phrases like the world flipped, but something in my chest really did tilt, like I'd been living on a flat floor and it suddenly sloped, and all our things, trust, routines, dumb private jokes started sliding toward the door. Just the Sunday before, we'd eaten scrambled eggs, and he told me how everything at the office was on fire, how our supplier screwed them, how he had to stay late. I nodded, poured him coffee, offered him my throw blanket because he always gets chilled after sleepless nights. He smiled and rubbed his temple with his thumb, like he does when he lies or when he's simply exhausted, and back then I still couldn't tell the difference. Now I was staring at numbers on a ticket as if they might blink and apologise. When paper bends under your fingers, your brain starts engineering explanations. Maybe the ticket was his, but he passed it to a friend and somehow the stub stayed in his pocket. Maybe the tickets were bought in advance and something truly blew up at work. Maybe it's absurd. The mind becomes a professional defence attorney building a case for someone who may not be a client at all, but the defendant. Meanwhile, the heart just begs for bread, simple answers. I slipped the ticket back into his pocket. Yes, back, no trash can, not into my wallet, not under my pillow. I returned it to its place the way you return a knife to the counter shop, necessary and likely to be needed again when it's time to slice the story open by layers. I decided I'll ask him tonight straight. No creeping around, no long prefaces. I grew up in a home where silence lusted for weeks like a winter storm outside, and I swore I wouldn't become the woman who listens to the faucet drip instead of turning the handle. He came home, laid keys clenched in his teeth, the street clinging to his jacket. I watched him untie his shoes, drop his bag, check his phone, see if the screen blinked. I wanted to unload everything at once, how I found the ticket, how my ribcage felt like a birdcage, how I needed one honest answer. I still started softer than I planned. And the second my words nudged his comfortable routine, that irritated light flashed in his eyes. He got tangled. You could see it physically. He started with one version, corrected himself, said something about partners, then about our scheduled concert, then I gave the ticket to Pasher, and then he snapped, "Why are you going through my stuff?" I wasn't. I was doing laundry. But you and I both know, when someone has nothing clean to say, they look for a different crime to prosecute. Don't like the question? Attack the tone. Don't like the tone? Attack the timing. The more he fumbled, the harder his voice got, tight like a guitar string cranked too far. In that ring, I heard for the first time a different apartment. Not the one we share, but the one where his conscience sleeps. The night was sheet glass clear and cold. We lay there facing opposite walls. Between us, maybe 16 inches of air filled with silence and bruised feelings, like someone had poured thick milk between our bodies. We ate separately the next morning. The day stretched like gum, flavourless and sticky. And if it had ended there, maybe life would have simply kept going with a small chip missing. But every betrayal has a second leg of the proof that doesn't come from me or him, but from a world that owes nobody anything. Social media, a place where people convince themselves they're living. I don't scroll much, but that day the circles under my eyes said sleep wasn't coming, and my brain doesn't have an off switch. I flicked through stories like they were sedatives, and there was some girl I didn't know had tagged the very concert he didn't go to. Stage, lights, familiar graphics on the screen, and down below one grainy photo from the crowd. The resolution was garbage, pixels like sand, but I recognized his profile. I have a weird talent for recognizing people by their shoulders. His are like two neatly folded blankets. Beside him some redhead in a beanie. They're smiling. Not kissing, not hugging. Just smiling. Like people whose night turned out great. I took a screenshot. Brought the phone close until a sound rose from deeper than my throat. Not a scream, not a sob, just a noise too big to stay inside. Now I had something to show if showing became necessary. But here's the strange part. I suddenly didn't want to show anything. I wanted it not to be my movie. I wanted someone from the future to put a hand on my head and say, "You made this up." It's not about you. I turned off my phone and sat at the kitchen table, listening to the refrigerator breathe. The next day I planned a calm talk. Not because I'm kind, because I was tired of living on a powder keg. I prepped the conversation like a layered cake. First, say it hurts. Second, say what I saw. Third, say I want to understand. But when I said the first sentence, he'd already built a wall. No yelling, no elaborate lies, not even apologies. Just a slide into distance. The kind of gaze that looks through you at a train timetable, and according to that timetable I've already left the station. We sat at opposite ends of the couch, and between us lay not a blanket, but a dead conversation. He buried himself in his for not a sun performance, but with the bland urgency of someone who suddenly needs Martian weather. I tossed out little stones of sentences, waiting for ripples on the surface. There were none. Only a flat and different lake, which in its own way is worse than plate shattering. I realised for the first time that not answering is also an answer, maybe a more honest one than the words we women often bend into excuses to survive tomorrow morning. I went to the bedroom and hauled the suitcase onto the floor. A suitcase amplifies any air. Its zipper sounds like a verdict. I wasn't packing a life, I was packing warmth, a couple sweaters, documents, a charger, that old t-shirt I sleep best in. My hands weren't shaking. I thought they would. But at the edge of yourself, the body goes practical like a nurse. Before leaving, I walked back to the kitchen and took the ticket from his jacket. The paper felt slightly temporane, maybe. I set it on the table the way you place the broken handle next to a cracked mug so the owner wouldn't get confused in the morning. This didn't just fall, this broke on purpose. That rectangle wasn't a jab or revenge. It was my way of saying, I'm not crazy, you really were where you said you weren't. And I left. Doors sound different when they close behind someone who's decided. The elevator crawled, my face looked back from the brushed metal, and I tried to name who I was, betrayed wife. The little grown woman finally picking up her own life. I didn't decide. The driver asked where to. I gave my friend's address. Rain slid down the window, streetlights painting long gold stripes across the glass. That's when the phone rang. I rarely answer unknown numbers, but on days like this something in you howls, pick up. It was her, the redhead in the beanie. I recognized her from the photo. We all come with little avatars now. Her voice sounded like it had rehearsed this call 10 times before pressing dial. She said she wasn't sure how to do this right. She said she felt awkward. She'd noticed my profile in her story view as yes. I'd hate scrolled her page in the night, and I guess she saw me and realized I'm his wife. Her words sliced cloth like a taut thread. She said that night wasn't a date. He's a volunteer in a peer group she attends. She's been dealing with harassment and stalking after leaving a bad relationship. They went to the concert as a small group. The photo just caught a frame where it looks like it's only the two of them. She said he wanted to invite me, but she asked him not to involve other names because her ex still monitors her circle and every new person becomes a target. She knew how it sounded. She hates when anyone gets hurt because of her. She said, God, how much she said. I listened while watching myself like a stranger, my chin trembling, my fingers squeezing the phone too hard, my heart trying to catch up to its own beat. Then she texted a photo, a wide shot, the 4 of them. Her, another woman, an older man, and him, my husband. I recognized the older man's jacket, our neighbours. I've seen his slow, ancient dog go on the stairs. In the photo they're all laughing, and somehow that laughter pet a thin tear in the air between me and the world. She also sent a screenshot of their messages. He told her he hated lying to me, didn't want to do it again, needed a plan to stop running 2 ledgers, honesty with me, safety for her. He didn't call me names. He talked about himself as someone stuck between 2 promises, my right to the truth and her right to protection. I stared at those lines and didn't know what to do with the part of me that had built a fortress out of rage in the last 24 hours. The driver swung around a bus, rain peppered the windshield like tiny buckshot. I asked him to pull over by the old gazebo in the park, the one no one's painted in a century. I stepped under these and took out a cigarette I haven't smoked in 3 years. I set it to my lips and put it away. Sometimes just holding something between your fingers settles your brain. I thought about how funny truth can be. We act like lies, a big black rocks you spot a mile away. Most of the time, lies are a kind of gas pumped into the soft spots so things don't burst in public. Part of me worships radical honesty. Another part knows how heavy another person's secret can be when it isn't yours to share. I have one of my own. 5 years ago I know, I will write it here. My burden, my business. The point is, we all carry a chunk of dark matter. I called him. He didn't answer. That was honest, too. I pictured him pacing the apartment, finding the ticket on the table, sinking onto the stool, pinching the paper by one corner the way I had. Blood on his face, not anger this time, not a prepared speech, pure fear. Fear of losing me. There's a lot of truth inside that fear. For the first time, I let myself ask not how could he, but why didn't he come to me and say it straight, ask me to support what he's doing. Maybe because I wouldn't have. Maybe I'm the woman who wants a clean display window with no shadows allowed. Maybe my perfectionism is the reason for the lie, because in my world there's no room for mess, and sometimes mess is the mulch good deeds grow in. I walked along the path. A wet bench smeared a muddy muck on my coat, whatever. He called back. I didn't pick up. Not to punish him, just to clear a breath. When you've spent years pretending everything's obvious, you lose the skill of stopping. I sat on the curb like a teenager and finally cried. No plot, no noble lines. Just salt leaving a body. My friend opened the door softly like I was a skittish old cat. Tea, a blanket, a box of cookies. We barely talked. I wanted quiet, not aloneness. A strange apartment has its own night music, the pipes burble in different voices, the fridge eats electricity with a different chew. I lay there staring at the ceiling and thought about my personality. How all my life I've built a system where truth is the currency of love. Say it and I'll believe you. Don't say it and I'll burn everything down. And now reality slides me a script where someone I love did a good thing by bending the truth across his knee. What do I do with that without betraying myself? He called again in the morning. Texted. First dry, we need to talk. Then more desperate. Then short and naked, I don't want to lose you. I read and felt something growing in me that could be power or callousness. If I run back immediately, I raise my no. If I don't, I punish the wrong act. Because the fact is, he helped someone. Even if there was something else and I don't know, and maybe I don't have to, he still chose a night brighter than most husbands allow themselves. That thought annoyed me and softened me at the same time. I got dressed and went to work like nothing happened. Co-workers debated the new cafeteria menu, someone swore about our manager, memes bloomed in the chat. The world doesn't care that your climate has changed. I caught myself swiping my phone, open, closed, open, closed. At lunch I sat on a concrete step outside and texted him. I saw the screenshots. I want to hear your vision face to face, but I'm not here for excuses. I want a plan. Rules going forward, not vows. No midnight vanishings. No, I'll explain later. Space for both of us to have projects we can talk about without smashing our display window. He replied fast, come tonight, I'll tell you everything, not just this, I have questions too. There was something we hadn't had in a long time, an admission that neither of us is perfect. I smiled, the first smile that actually reached my eyes in days. That evening I headed home. Not in triumph, just with respect for my own exhaustion. Sentences spun in my head, not pretty, just usable. I knew the ticket would still be on the table. I'd asked my friend not to drag me back by momentum. I'd return when I was ready. I opened the door. The hall smelled like it always does. The kitchen was quiet. The ticket waited. Next to it, a page torn from my notebook. His handwriting goes slanted when he's nervous, letters leaning right like grass in a storm. It wasn't an apology, it was a list. What happened? Why the lie? What he's ready to change. Which evenings he'll give to the group and how to keep me from feeling like a stranger in my own life. At the end, a firm ask, don't make him betray the secrets that aren't his. Don't force a choice between me and the people who lean on him. I stood there with two artifacts, ticket and page. One proving I'd been lied to, the other refusing to turn our home into a courtroom. In my head I felt a clean pivot. I can keep being the prosecutor and be right. Or I can try being a person who doesn't erase accountability but stops demanding the performance of perfection. I don't know which is correct. Truth isn't always good. Sometimes it's just a hammer useful for finishing off what's already cracked. I made tea. That. Picked up the ticket. Flipped it over. On the back, small letters row and seat. I always check backs like a kid hunting for secret pockets. Below that, in faint pencil, next time together. I don't know who wrote it. Maybe him. Maybe a box office clerk. Maybe nothing at all, and I made it a sentence. But something different rustled inside me. I understood our talk wouldn't be what did you, but how do we? My phone buzzed. A text from the redhead. Short, I'm sorry again. I didn't reach out to excuse him, just so you'd know that sometimes people do the right thing while stepping crooked. I smiled. For the first time, I wanted to answer. I wrote, thank you, sometimes more right is exactly crooked. We spoke late into the night. He told his side without dragging someone else's stories, just his. Who he was then, how much pride, how much fear. I told mine about my worship of control, how chaos and open doors spooked me because anything might walk in. I said I wouldn't forgive on command. Forgiveness is a process, not the switch. I said we needed a mode where we both know the rules. That lies are like salt, a pinch can save the soup, but dump in a tablespoon and you toss the pot. I wanted to see behaviour, not promises. He nodded, and that nod felt like an adult being present. We didn't hug. There's no swelling music, no credits rolling. We just laid down, not touching. And for the first time in days I wasn't cold. Not because warmth returned, but because I stopped scraping my own skin, hunting for an answer printed there. In the morning I pinned the ticket to the fridge with a little magnet. Not as romance, not as victory. As a reminder that objects on proof so much as questions. That strip of paper asks me every day, who are you today, judge, or a woman who can live with difficult truth? I don't know the right reply. Maybe adulthood is living without a rubber stamp that says approved on every step. Sometimes I wonder, what if that girl hadn't existed? What if it had been as banal as a soap opera? I answer myself honestly, I would have left for the night anyway. And I still would have come back to talk. Because the sharpest turn in this story wasn't his actor, it was who I was. I spent my life fearing deceit and building a fort of correctness. Forts keep out pain and air. If one of us stepped crooked, then my step now is learning to stand without slamming my forehead into the law. You probably want a twist ending. I sometimes do too. That it wasn't his jacket pocket at all, or that the back of the ticket says I love you to me specifically. Life isn't that courteous. It rarely gives us final turns that let us clap and cry, aha. It hands us a handful of small tasks and one or two heavy questions. My big one is whether I can live with the fact that every truth limps sometimes and every lie occasionally shelters someone from a draft. We're careful now. He leaves on Tuesdays for the group. I go to therapy on Wednesdays. We agreed not to demand the whole truth about other people and to tell the whole truth about ourselves. We allow clarifying questions. We allow silence when it's a pause, not a shield. Sometimes the wave hits me. Sometimes it hits him. We both pretend to be sturdier than we are and then confess we swapped the salt for sugar again. That's our new kitchen, a little bland, sometimes too sweet, usually edible. Occasionally good. And still the ending you're waiting for is probably this. A week ago he brought home 2 tickets. Same venue, different band. Set them on the table. Looked at me. No big smile, just nudged them closer. I picked one up, flipped it over, nothing on the back. Blank white. Inside me, movement not all forgiven, not triumphant. I said out loud to myself, not to him, I'll go if he'll tell me afterward what it was like. Not there at the show. Here. At the table. What it was like for you and what it was like for me. He nodded. And I thought maybe the most provocative line in this whole story is that sometimes love isn't a never lie, but sometimes bear a truth that doesn't fit your rules. Maybe you'll disagree. Right now the old ticket hangs on the fridge and the new ones rest in a drawer. Every time I reach for a spoon, the edge of the paper catches my hand and reminds me, don't pick a side, pick a way. And in that way, I want to be someone you can tell the truth to even if it walks into our house damp and crumpled like a rain-soaked ticket from someone else's pocket. I'm also keeping my right to wheel out the suitcase again if the gas of lies starts pumping into our walls. Every bit of grown-up love stands on 2 legs, the ability to stay and the ability to leave. I'm learning to walk. Crooked, but in my own step.